Good evening and welcome to Candid Candidate Conversations. I'm Chantal Mullen, and we are here this evening with another fabulous candidate. So, Candid Candidate Conversations are hosted by Win with Black Women and Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. This is a space where we center truth, leadership, and power, the power of our voices in the political process. This space more um, is about more than politics. It's about building power, asking the tough questions, and hearing directly from the women who are stepping up to lead at every level. We know Black women have always been the backbone of democracy, and here we create the space to engage, inform, and mobilize. Tonight, we're honored to be joined by a woman of integrity, experience, and deep commitment to justice. We have Ghee, a candidate for judge on the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you
Welcome,
for having
Kia.
me, Chantal, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, let's jump right into this conversation. So you are running for the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. Now, I'm a lawyer. I may understand that, but what is the Court of Common Pleas?
So the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia is a court of jurisdiction over family matters, civil cases, as well as criminal cases. So for family court, you could have anything from custody, protection from abuse, juvenile cases, separation, anything involving families and youth, child abuse, and all of those kinds of issues as well. For civil matters, that can range from employment discrimination to wrongful termination to personal injury to all types of allegations that do not involve crime, but they have led to damages for one of the parties. So that would be our civil court, and will deal with all your major trials. It's not the entry level court. That would be our municipal court that does bail hearings and arraignments and things like that. But for the Court of Common Pleas, you could be assigned to the criminal division, which does hear all criminal cases.
Okay, that sounds like a really important part of the judicial system and impacts a lot of people in the community.
Yes, it absolutely does. It's the court where we see that there are disparities in outcomes for marginalized communities, particularly communities that look like mine, where I came from, Philadelphia, working class neighborhood, where folks were, our neighborhood was hard hit by the crack epidemic, and that caused a lot of ongoing issues with the residents that live there. And so people in Philadelphia who are sometimes economically disadvantaged, demographics, racially, demographically, in marginalized communities, oftentimes find themselves on the side of justice that does not always feel fair. And so I'm running to make a difference in that regard.
Okay. Well, you know what? You said that magic word. Why are you running?
Yes, I am running to make sure that all Philadelphians have equal access to justice, no matter who they are, what their circumstances are, or what their background is. Our communities need someone who is there for the right reasons, for the people, and not just for power, particularly judges. We need judges that reflect the diversity of our city so that we can have outcomes that are representative and thoughtful, given the lived experiences and the legal expertise of the judges who are in office.
Well, it sounds like, there are some outcomes that you would like to address specifically. So what's your experience with that?
Sure. So I, for the last 4 years, I have been the executive director of the city's official civil rights agency. So I have been tasked with leading the city's charge to fight against this for low-income folks, our seniors, our veterans, and building strong communities. And so what we've been able to do over the 4 years that I was in that role was to go out in communities in crisis, particularly at-risk youth, to teach them conflict resolution skills and teach them how to use words instead of weapons, which, a lot of times can lead to some criminal issues down the line. And so I take with me my commitment to community, certainly my commitment to justice, which happened for me long before I ever became a lawyer. So for 12 years prior to becoming a lawyer, I worked in programs like Head Start and Early Head Start, fighting for low-income children and families to make sure that they had access to high-quality education, social services, healthcare, and healthcare services. I have a master's degree, and that gives me a unique perspective, particularly when you think about the fact that cases that come into a courtroom before a judge should be approached on an individualized basis. And I think that my background in public health gives me a unique perspective in how to do that and do that fairly.
Okay. Well, you're entering this race for for this judgeship at a very interesting time in our country, where the courts are under attack and people gain level of trust, or they may not be trusting of the judicial system. How will you approach that as a judge, or deal with that mistrust, or make people, have some faith that they can get a fair shake when they come to court?
I think one of the most important things that you can do as a judge is allow full transparency, allow for your courtroom to be open to the public so that they can engage and listen to the cases as you are there. Also, making sure that when I issue a written opinion, that opinion is clear, that it speaks to all the facts that were presented in the case, and that the law is clearly outlined and identified for folks. I think one misconception I think that happens on a national level is that some people in political office have sort of run the narrative that judges are either Democratic or Republican and make issue rulings based on that. And I found that in my practice, I have found that not to be true. I've never gone into a courtroom, and I'm sure you're the same way. I've never gone into a courtroom and said, oh, this judge is a Democrat, so this case is in the bag for me. Or this judge is a Republican, so I'm going to have an uphill battle. I think that we need to definitely ensure that the public sees what our court system looks like firsthand, so that they don't necessarily believe some of the narratives that are happening on a national level. And I also think that it's important for us to acknowledge, though, that there are systemic disadvantages for certain folks, and that's just a fact. We know that in Philadelphia, if you're poor or you're Black or brown, you're more likely than others to be sentenced to longer time for the same crimes under the same facts. We know that you're more likely to have more often contact with the law, and when you do have those criminal encounters, then you're more likely to be sentenced to longer times. Similarly, in a civil space, Black litigants are more likely, Black and brown and poor and LGBTQ are more likely than others to receive less in damages. And so we know that just based on the studies that have been done in Philadelphia on the court system here, that we have some improvement that's needed in that area. How we improve that is by shining sunlight on some of the issues that are present. And that has been done. That work has been done. We know that there is an issue here. We changed that by allowing people to come into office, elect judges who reflect the core values of our community and reflect what diversity in Philadelphia looks like.
Okay. Well, I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about you because we've been talking about the stuff, but I want to talk about you for a moment. What is one thing you would like voters to know about you that might not show up on your resume?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think one thing that I want to make clear is that I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. And so with that, I've had a lot of the same lived experiences as some of my counterparts and Philadelphians in general. But why I do the work that I do, it's very central to me and who I am. I do it for people like my father. My father was like me. He wanted to become a lawyer. And he was a Marine out of West Philadelphia. He used his GI benefits to go to Temple University here in Philadelphia, where he met my mother. Shortly after graduation, they got married and had my sister and I. I'm an identical twin. And so, yes, my dad, he started law school. And then, unfortunately, because of his growing family, he had to drop out of law school to take care of his family. And so then, like many families in the 80s and 90s, and even now, he found himself battling addiction. And so with his addiction, he had done some things that he wasn't so proud of, had some encounters with the criminal justice system. And now thank God, pulled himself out of addiction. He's doing really well for himself. He's a licensed insurance broker. But, sometimes he still finds himself having to revisit those dark areas of his past when he goes to a new employer and he has to talk about some of the encounters that he had back in 1983 that may show up on his record. And so for me, my father is a constant reminder that we are not our circumstances. And, the difference between a good judge and a bad judge is someone that knows the difference between someone that's having a bad day and a bad person. And so for me, my father is a constant reminder in that regard. He also has shown me through his own personal journey the power of resilience and redemption. And so I believe that that's part of what pushes me to see the humanity in every case that I'm involved with, knowing that people are not their worst mistake. Also knowing that, there is a pathway of redemption available to people, and people should be allowed to re-enter society with the resources necessary to really live up to their best potential. So that's something that my resume and my bio doesn't tell you.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about leadership for a moment because we're all influenced by some leaders that we either admire or have worked with. So who's on your wall of leadership? Who inspires you to lead and why?
Wow. So I would have to say there's two people. My mother is definitely one of the people that would be on my leadership wall because she taught me the power of resilience. how to stand up in the face of adversity, to do it with finesse, to know that you may have some challenges, but you can overcome them with hard work and determination. And she also taught me the value of doing the right thing for the right reasons. So my mother would always be there. Also, I have to say Michelle Obama, because to me, she is someone who has encapsulated all of the facets that one can aspire to as a Black woman: intelligent, career focused, family focused, someone who has withstood so much heat on a national level and has done it with so much grace and dignity, but also at the same time has been firm about where to draw the line. There's areas, that she doesn't allow the public to have access to, like her children and, the intimate parts of her marriage. But we'll say, I'm there to support my husband as well. As someone like myself, I'm married for the second time, and I have 3 children. My oldest is 25 years old, and my youngest are 7 and 9. I think it's important to be well-rounded for the next generation, as well as, for those that I encounter in my community.
That is nice to tell us that and share that with us. I think it's interesting. It's your mom and Michelle Obama. Those are, a very public figure and a very, very personal one for you. Um, because you know what, you're getting to me because you're being a good lawyer. You're answering more questions. Because I had a bunch of other questions for you, and I'm like, oh my goodness, wait a minute. She has jumped through kind of and weaved her story all through it. What should everyday people know about the role of a judge that they might not really understand? Because I think we know, sometimes we watch TV, and TV kind of shapes our perception, but perception is not reality. So what should people know about being a judge that they really may not understand?
I think one of the things that people need to be aware of is that judges have power. They have the power to decide which cases actually are heard. People can file motions to dismiss, and with those motions, your case can be thrown out. And if you're a defendant and the case is not strong, then they have the power to decide if those charges are dismissed, along with the district attorney, obviously. But this is what people need to know. Fairness has to be fundamental to your judges, because they need to be able to listen to the case that has come before them, determine if it's a criminal case, what the appropriate penalty is for criminal activity, what the appropriate sentence is. That a lot of times is influenced by people's lived experiences. We know that people who are diverse oftentimes have experiences that some in the community may have experienced as well. And so with that knowledge, they can determine or ascertain, knowing the difference between what needs to be a harsh penalty and what doesn't. I think that people should understand that judges also interact quite frequently with organizations that they would that they may refer their defendants to. For example, and I hope I said that right, I just went on a tour a couple of about maybe 6 weeks ago of a rehab center in Philadelphia. And I went there not just because of my own personal experience and firsthand experience, but I think it's good for judges to know what resources are out there for people who are struggling with addiction, because we know that a lot of the criminal activity here in Philadelphia and elsewhere is driven by addiction. And so we need to know that if there are alternatives to incarceration that would be viable, we need to know what they are so that we can incorporate those in in our outcomes. I think that, you know, it's more than, I think people need to know it's more than just being a good lawyer or having a good command of the law that makes a judge a good judge. Some of it is common sense, but our common sense is you need to pick someone who is going to be there for the right reasons and who can parse through with integrity and fairness. Yeah, I think I answered that question.
Yes. So, your election is coming up, and when?
Our election is coming up on May 20th. There will be 9 judges elected for the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia, and there will be 3 judges elected for a municipal court. I am one of 9 judicial candidates who are endorsed by the local party here, and also recommended by the Bar Association, which is significant because that they believe that the candidates who are endorsed by them are qualified and ready for office on day one. And so I'm happy to be recommended by the Bar Association here. And so what I tell people oftentimes is 9 candidates will, for the Court of Common Pleas, will be elected. And that's going to be regardless. But we want to make sure that the 9 people who are elected are those who share our values. And I believe that I'm one of those people who have been in Philadelphia, have spent my life in my career in public service, and I've spent my life and career working with people who are oftentimes I should say, being a voice for people who are oftentimes voiceless. And that's important for what we need to see in our judiciary.
Oh, well, you know what? That's a perfect segue to my next question. Because hearing about lots of candidates, when they hear Ghee, what do you hope comes to mind, and what's the core message that you want voters to take away and carry with them to the polls to inspire them to vote for you?
I want them to remember that I am committed to equal access to justice for all Philadelphians, no matter what you look like, how you present in your gender, no matter your background, your circumstances, whether you are rich or poor, that I am someone who will be there for the people and not the power. I need them to understand that I know what's at stake when people come into our courtrooms. And it's important for me to deliver justice and be a voice for those who have not historically accessed justice in such a way.
Okay. And you know what? I see there's a question in the chat, and I'm gonna see if I can grab this question. It's from Sister Veronica. She asked, how do you handle cases that involve public interest or significant media attention? And I'm just going to give you the first part. She has 2 questions, so if we have time, we'll go back to her second.
How would I handle cases that drew significant media attention? So,
or public interest?
Yes. So I think integral to all resolution of cases is going to be fairness, transparency, delivering your rulings with integrity and in an unbiased manner. That's going to be regardless of whether or not there is media attention at all. Also, if there is media attention, you want to make sure that there are safeguards in place so that the parties do not feel threatened or do not feel intimidated by media coverage. So you want to make sure that you have some safeguards in place. I remember clerking for a federal judge, and one of his rules was that if there were media present, they couldn't be close to the table for either the defendant or the prosecutor. They had to sit in the back row because you just don't want that extra layer of anxiety or, for folk to feel like, that they may be disadvantaged by the media being there. It's our court system is public. And so to the extent possible, I think that there should be media should be allowed to be there because, again, we want transparency, but we also want to make sure that we're protecting vulnerable people and people that may feel angst about coming forward to testify or to, just with the ongoings of the court trial.
Okay. I think we have time for just a couple more questions, and I am going to grab Veronica's second part of her question,
Yes.
which is, what impact do you believe technology will have on the future of the judicial system?
So one of the biggest technological advances that I've seen remotely, to the extent possible, we see a lot of, at least on the administrative side, administrative hearings and some civil hearings, we're seeing more remote hearings. Obviously, the dockets are all electronic at this point here in Philadelphia. And so making sure that our attorneys are filing they're making their filings electronic helps for the expediency of court. It helps for judicial efficiency. And so I think that we'll continue in that way. But I'm looking to see more ways to engage or allow access to folks that may not be able to actually come into a courtroom. I noticed that as the executive director of the Commission on Human Relations and the Fair Housing Commission here in Philadelphia, when we had our hearings remotely, that allowed access for a lot of low-income people because they didn't necessarily have to worry about transportation or childcare, or sometimes even taking off from work. They could go into their, break room or shut the door to an office and, allow themselves to be able to advocate for themselves. So I think that, that may be one of the ways that that the courts may tiptoe into technology moving forward.
Okay. Well, we're going to end by talking about your campaign. We've already mentioned your election date, which I'm going to see if we can put that back up. Thank you. May 20th, 2025. Where can folks find you? How can they donate? Where can they find you?
Yes. So they can find me on social media on Instagram at Ghee 4, the number 4 judge. And they can also find me on my website, which is www.KeaGhee4judge.com. They will find, if they go to my website, they can learn all about me, my vision for the judicial. As a judicial candidate here in Philadelphia, I cannot ask specifically for contributions, but if you go on the website, it will tell you very clearly how you can support our campaign. We know that campaigns rely on resources, and we know that those resources have to be such that they get us across the finish line. You can contribute by your time and your other resources that will allow our campaign to continue to advocate and go through till May 20th.
Awesome. Well, we're going to put the website back up just one more time. so we can make sure, because what we want you to do is amplify. If you live in Philadelphia, and I saw some folks that says, I'm in Philly, I think that's Sister Bev over there, Sister Leslie, and they're asking about it. If you've got friends or family in Philadelphia, they may not know about this election. So make sure that you grab this information. You go to her Instagram page and you like and share.
Yes.
You go to her website and read about it and then share it, because we have to be the advocates in our community to share information about candidates that people should know about and elections that are upcoming. May 20th is not that far away. And so we want to make sure that we get the word out. Also, while we are live streaming this evening, the recording of this conversation will also be on the Win with Black Women and the Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote YouTube page. And you'll be able to grab that link and share that with your family and friends, even if they weren't able to make tonight's conversation. And so with that, I just want to thank you for joining us. We wish you the best of luck with your campaign, and we will certainly amplify this conversation. If you have not signed up for the Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, Black Women Ran conversation, or Black Women Run 2025. So we will have all of your information as a candidate. There you go. Thank you. And then for those of you who are candidates and you want to figure out how you can join us on a candidate conversation, if you just open your phone and use it to open that link, you can sign up to join us on most Tuesdays. So with that, I just want to say thank you for joining us again. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.